Let's talk about female fertility on the carnivore diet. Welcome back to my channel. When I got pregnant with my first son, I was 36 and a half, and it took us a good year to make it happen. Eventually it did happen, but we put a lot of work to it. Exercise, supplementation, nutrition, changes into the diet, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic remedies, acupuncture, you name it, we did it. Eventually we ended up doing fertility testing in a fertility clinic, and that's how I learned what my fertility was then. And with the second baby, not to waste any time, the pandemic and lockdowns delayed us already a lot. So I didn't want to take any chances, and I didn't want to lose that 6 months of trying just to find out that there are fertility issues. So as soon as we made a decision to have a second baby, we went straight to the fertility clinic to get evaluated. And that's how I know what my fertility is at 41. Different clinics have different methodologies and strategies how they approach fertility, but the basic tests for sure were involved. FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone. It tells you how much that hormone your body has to secrete to get your ovaries to produce healthy follicles. And MAH, which is anti-Mullerian hormone, which tells you about your ovarian reserve, basically how much good eggs you have left to work with. So when I first tested my FSH, it was completely out of whack. It looked like I was premenopausal at age of 36. And then my MAH was at 1.5 nanograms per deciliter, which is not tragic when it comes to fertility treatments such as IVF. But for my age group, I should really be at 2 nanograms per deciliter. So as you can imagine, I was quite upset because my entire life revolved around pursuing health and the best lifestyle and diet. And here I am at 36, not so great when it comes to fertility. And if you think about it, fertility is probably the best testimonial for your overall health. Unfortunately, I was one of those victims who believed that vegetarian diet and then vegan diet is the best for your health. And so I was pursuing it for quite some time. I started as a pescatarian for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, then another year and a half of being a vegetarian, and then I tried going vegan. That didn't last long because my body was already depleted, so I really fell apart within a few months. And then I started looking for other answers because I just couldn't continue with that diet. I do have a video about my journey from vegan to carnivore. I will link it in the description box. Check it out. Now then I met my now husband, and he was a serious meat eater and also a big fan of the Eastern European cuisine. So I was going very frequently to the Polish stores, getting sausages, Polish hams and other cold cuts, smoked mackerels, and I was there in his apartment preparing it for him, and I wasn't eating it, and it really looked great, and it was this traditional Polish food from my childhood. And that was probably the last nail in the vegan coffin. When I stopped being vegan, I was following the Paleo Diet, but it wasn't anything sophisticated on my part. I didn't have a good understanding of human nutrition, so the focus on red meats such as beef, pork and lamb just wasn't there. I was following the mainstream paleo with tons of nut flours, things like paleo pancakes made from almond flour crackers, lots of leafy greens sauteed, and then maybe with some salmon, lots of coconut flour, coconut oil, coconut butter, coconut chunks. And then from there I went into the ketogenic diet, so I added back dairy. I cut out a lot of nut flours, but I was still eating them. And I think I was still juicing leafy greens. I think I still have photos from that time. But anyway, that was enough to get me pregnant. And during pregnancy with my first son, I was more or less low carb. And then I tried being low carb and ketogenic while nursing, but just your milk supply will dip. Mine did for sure, so I had to add more carbs. By the way, while I was pregnant, all the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis went away, and that lasted for about 2 months postpartum. It didn't matter what I've eaten, gluten, no gluten, lectins, no lectins, I just didn't have any symptoms. But one night I woke up with every single joint on fire. It was so bad that I had problems getting off bed and standing up. I literally had to hold on to the wall in order to make the way to the bathroom. It was that bad. Anyway, when I was done with breastfeeding, I was already knowledgeable about Carnivore Diet and the Paleo ketogenic protocol. I had my results of gut permeability back, which were very bad. So I was extra motivated to succeed at fixing my gut permeability. So just about 10 days of following paleo ketogenic diet religiously relieved 80% of my rheumatoid arthritis symptoms. And a few months later, I was completely disease-free, and with that, I had so many other health benefits. The chronic fatigue went away, I didn't have to drink coffee, all my allergies cleared up, my chronic constipation went away, which, by the way, was horrible while I was pregnant. And this go around, I have zero constipation. But with that, I didn't know about it then, until recently, my fertility improved, and by a lot. We went to get tested mid-May of this year, and the clinic is called CHR. Very good, by the way. If you guys are looking for a good evaluation of your fertility, I highly recommend them. It took them almost 2 months to get us tested. Genetically, every single hormone, every single inflammation marker, our metabolic health, they looked at our fertility holistically from every possible angle, and they were looking for any possible relationship between hormones, glands, and the reproductive system. So when all the results came back 2 months later, we met again for the follow-up conversation, and the biggest thing of all was that my MAH, anti-Mullerian hormones levels, were at 1.36, which means they hardly dropped from when I was 36. And the average for my age group is 0.92. So as you see right there, I'm much healthier now than I was when I was 36. Same thing with FSH. It just came back in the normal range. Nothing under, nothing over, just average for my age group. So this was one of the biggest surprises for me, because I was seriously concerned about my fertility, because we're talking now about a 41-year-old woman. So I was super anxious to get the results back, but it was a great surprise. But more importantly, at the time that we had the conversation with the fertility doctor, and he was talking about our overall fertility, and he was actually very optimistic about our chances of getting pregnant, I was already pregnant, naturally. So there it is, at the age of 41, I got pregnant on the second try without trying to help my fertility in any way. What I did was just to time it correctly to get the most fertile window within the month, and that's about it. Now, the one thing that has changed between when I was getting pregnant the first time and this time was that I went on the Carnivore Diet. Now, my goal was to reverse rheumatoid arthritis, but as you see, a lot of other positive changes happened in the meantime as well, fertility being one of them. And I did Carnivore Diet now for 1.5 years, and I experimented with different versions, but basically meat, fat, salt, and water is the majority of what I eat. Now, after a few months of being on PKD, I stopped focusing on the fat consumption so much, and I just eat a lot more proteins. And then I tried to incorporate some fruit and then some fermented cabbage, but eventually I always went back to PKD, and after a few weeks, when I got tired of ketosis, I went on the Carnivore Diet with emphasis on the protein consumption. And that was enough to improve my fertility. Now, I know there are a lot of old wives' tale that it is always easier with the second baby, that your fertility actually improves after you have your first baby. who knows? I had no way of telling, but I was able to measure my fertility at 36 and fertility at 41, and here are the results that I can actually compare, share, and discuss with you. And the only variable that changed in my life between the two pregnancies was what I was eating. And in my opinion, if you cut out of your diet coffee, tea, lectins, oxalates, and replace it with high quality red meats, your fertility will go through the roof just within a couple of months. I mean, I'm convinced, like at 41 to get pregnant that easily, it has to be the diet. So yeah, that's how I was able to improve my fertility and get pregnant with ease at age of 41. This was somewhat accidental when it comes to improving my fertility, because my sole purpose of going carnivore was to reverse rheumatoid arthritis. I just couldn't stand any more pain, being paralyzed, and I was just feeling way too young to be so crippled. So I would do anything, even if it meant eat meat, salt, fat, and water for however long it was needed. And yeah, but in the process, my fertility improved as well. So this is a yet another benefit, important one, of going carnivore. All right, this will do it for this week's video. Share it with anybody that is considering having baby, wants to improve their fertility, or are already going through fertility treatments. This may be a very useful video for them. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.